When did you really start like battling and really like focusing on freestyling?
Very early, very early. Like I would say I specifically picked up the pen and pad and started writing rhymes and stuff around 12.
Wow.
I would say immediately within the first year or two, the battling thing came into the picture as well. So by 13, 14, I was, so I'm like in junior high at the time. So I'm walking around looking for it. I'm at the mall making sure, if anybody wants to battle, holla at me. And it's interesting because I've told this tale before, but maybe it never really got highlighted, so this may be the chance for me to really put it out there. The first battle that I actually ever engaged in, I don't remember details as in the opponent or the name or the lines, but I do remember a couple things, and that is I didn't know I was in a battle, and number two, I got smashed. And the reason why is because I think I didn't know I was in one. And the setting was the cafeteria at the school. I had been rhyming for a minute, so I'm engaging in ciphers and I'm aware of that component. But then I remember one time, I'm around 13, 12. The guy that we rhyming, it's a couple of us, the real traditional banging on the table for the beat, right? He starts coming at me. Like just, dissing me. Probably relatively basic, we're like 12, 13. Basic lines, but he's just like snapping on me regardless about my gear or whatever. And even something as early as 12, 13, there were like those little racial jabs in there already. And I didn't make much of it, but it caught me off guard. Along the lines of like, yo, you ain't nice. You should be making us some rice. Something like that. That's not, don't quote me. That's probably not verbatim, but along the lines of that. So a couple things occurred when this took place. I got totally caught off guard by it, and the crowd was eating it up. So who is the crowd? The crowd is our peers, the rest of the kids, in the cafeteria. The girls is laughing. The dudes is like, oh, shit, yo. And little did I know, I'm engaging in a battle. So it comes back, it comes back to me. It's my turn to rhyme. And I didn't even know, like, I'm supposed to come at him. So I'm just kicking random rhymes, freestyling, probably at my worst stages, because it's just something new to me. And I didn't know the dynamic of you come at me, I come at you, I gotta defend myself. Until later on, like probably by the next one, I was like, oh, that's how it works. So I didn't like start practicing or anything, but once I grasped that, is when the game changed. So this is how I first got exposed to it. Now by the time I was like 16, we're talking going into high school, by that time I had already like dug into the craft and the art of it and the history of it and going online. And the crazy thing is at that time, YouTube wasn't popping, so it's not like you could really get a lot of information on it. You really had to dig and to learn about it. And I think that played a big part in my growth and development. And by the time, like I said, 16, 17, I also knew that, I'm trying to get a deal and this is my destiny. The whole getting in the rap game and becoming a rap star. And I knew that the battle component was gonna be like one of my main vehicles in doing so. And that's kind of how it all unfolded. It's almost like a paradox because I also see that from people who see me on Freestyle Friday, it can come across as like an over the night sensation type of thing if that's your first exposure to me. And I do believe that is the case. However, on the flip side, I know that prior to 106, I had put in mad years already. And even some of the people viewing that that dig really deep into the roots, they'll probably be like, word.
Well, it was obvious by skill level.
But that too. Well, yeah, to like if someone connected that, because you don't just show up, and this guy wasn't just doing it for like the last 2-3 weeks, and he just showed up on 106. Right. So the interesting thing is, at its peak, 106 in Park, not for nothing, specifically the Freestyle Friday platform, it was the only platform on that level of we're talking like national and just like really creating awareness for battling. Yeah, by that time there were like little festival battles and annual things, but in terms of on that type of scale, it was only Freestyle Friday. So at that time I was still living in Miami when it was, launched and popping off. I remember the first person to really do it up there was Poster Boy. If anything, Poster Boy is the first one to do the 7-week Hall of Fame, get a deal off of that. And that was like, for us at 17 years old, we all watching, like specifically me, I'm like, that's me. I'm doing that right there. So, but the biggest challenge was because I didn't live in New York, it made it difficult to follow through with that. So the real turning point was when I actually moved to New York, and I moved to New York in 2001. So about a year after I graduated high school, I came out here. and I started hitting the circuit still, the Lower East Side joints, the going to Rutgers for a battle, doing all of that. And then by chance, this is how I met my first manager at the time, who ran with me for several years, even when I signed with the R. I was down in front of Fat Beats, rest in peace, because they closed Fat Beats, right, on 6th and 8th. So I was down in front of Fat Beats, and my would-be manager walks by. I try to sell him one of my mixtapes, and he's like, no, I'm good. He leaves, comes back, sees me ciphering, and he's like, yo, you kind of nice. I try to sell him a mixtape again. He passes on that again. I part ways with him, and then next thing you know, he comes back trying to find me, but I'm not there no more. And he asked the people around it, yo, you ever seen that Chinese kid that be around here? And then, yo, I believe it's very divine too. We connect back together, and he's like, yo, if you're down, I'd love to kind of help manage you, and we can try to build from there. Off of a handshake, we started rocking together, and the first thing he brought up was Freestyle Friday 106 in Park. And I was like, I've tried, but it just never really came through. And then he's like, yo, I'm gonna look into that. So he found out when the next audition was. Yo, I went up to 106 in Park, specifically where they used to have it on Park Ave on 106th Street. Showed up for auditions, and the rest is history. Never, not at a young age.
Not at a young age.
Even at that point, when I was 12, 13, like, I didn't focus too much on the fact that, yo, he talked about me making fried rice. Hold up, what's up with that? More than that, I was just like, yo, he's getting at me right now. So that was the component. It wasn't specifically about the fried rice thing. And then I think even as I continued to grow in it, by the time like I was 16, 17, like I'm fully engaged in the battle. So it started in the Miami scene. So not to like big myself up, but for one season of my life, I was making my rounds in the Miami circuit, or the thriving Miami circuit at that time, because this is before grind time, this is before anything, right? So, they used to have this thing called Grab the Mic, and, that was like the big thing, and I went through that. So by 16, 17, it started becoming reoccurring. That, safe to say, 10 out of 10 battles, I'm gonna hear about fried rice, I'm gonna hear about fortune cookies, I'm gonna hear about Bruce Lee, I'm gonna hear about my height, I'm gonna hear about, just anything that you could think of that's related to my culture, right? Now, by that time, I think unintentionally, and I believe it was very organic, I had developed, one, a defense mechanism, and two, almost like an unintentional tactic where like I go into it because I know they're coming with that, I can kind of be prepared and counter it in a certain way. Now, I'm not talking about like I'm writing bars specifically to counter it, but if I know, yo, he's gonna come at me about the fried rice, then I'm mentally prepared for it. So when it comes, it's not as shocking as, like, let's say in the cafeteria. Right. You know what I'm saying? Whereas I remember the first, and from that standpoint, yo, I was pretty consecutively victorious. When I really started stumbling in the earlier days of my battling, run, like when I started getting caught off guard and getting, caught off left and right, is when the guy didn't come with the Asian jokes. Because I would be like, he'd go for a whole 60-second round and he don't say one Asian thing. And then now I'm like, oh snap, he didn't say anything about me being Asian. And it's documented. Like now with the YouTubes and the Googles, you can find the ones where like I'm getting pretty much like boxed into the corner. Those are the ones where like the guy doesn't say anything about me being Asian, because because now it's just, we're talking just skill for skill. Right. And so that was something I had to kind of acclimate to after that, because I think that happened because as the guys that are starting to battle me, they see, hold up, we can't call him Karate Kid no more, because he gonna flip that on us. We can't throw the egg roll line at him no more, because he gonna flip that on us. So then there it is. I've heard many battle rappers compare boxing to freestyle battling, and it very much is. You study your opponents. Yo, I ain't coming at gym with no Chinese jokes. You see what I'm saying? And then that challenges me to shift my approach too.
But that's Drake rapping. When he raps, he's one of the best, dog. Like, he says shit I've never heard before.
You don't. Like, I can't go in somebody else's house, and even though they let me wear their clothes and eat their food, that's not my house.